Welcome back to another episode of Mr. Bowman Makes. In this episode, we will be looking at the second part of our Pico-8 to Scratch series, focusing today on loops. Now, in our little coding window here, we have our loop, and I'm just going to play this so we can see how it works. We have a countdown from 10, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, party time. So that is our very quick and simple countdown and the loop that we're going to create today in Scratch as well as Pico-8. So let's get rid of everything here, and then I'm going to go back down to my variables, delete the countdown just so that we can recreate it for our example. All right, so make a variable, and then we're going to go count down. It's important to name our variables the very thing that we want to actually remember what it does. So we're going to call it countdown, and we're going to go OK. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to drag it over to our flag. Once we've dragged it over to our flag, we're going to set this countdown variable to 10 because we want it to count down from 10. And the next thing we want to do is to actually start getting it to loop. And the way that we do that is by going over to our control, getting our repeat command, and we're going to put this into our code. Now, loop and repeat are the same thing. So Scratch calls it repeat, and in other coding languages, it's called a loop. We're going to loop it 10 times because we want it to count down from 10. And the way that we get it to count down is to come back over to our variable, and we're going to change our countdown. But we're not going to change it by 1 because that would cause it to count up. We actually need to change it by -1, and that will cause it to count down and repeatedly count down by 1 10 times. And that is how we're going to get our countdown happening. So we've got it counting down. We also need to put in our message to actually make it say the number that it's actually counting down. So let's go to looks, and I'm going to say hello. So let's drag that off. And I'm going to put it above the change, because what will happen is if it changes first, it would turn to 9 before it would actually say the countdown. So let's go back to our variables here, and we're going to take our countdown here, and we're going to drag this into say hello. So it's now say countdown. And we're going to change this so that it is counting down for 1 second rather than for 2 seconds. Lastly, we're going to put in a say command, but outside of the loop, because we don't want it to loop each time. We just want it to be saying party time at the end of our program. So let's go to looks. We're going to say hello, and we're just going to put in, let's take that, party time. There we go. And a little thing in there for us to be able to have a little party. All right, let's click the flag and see how this works. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, party time. There we go. So that is our loop in Scratch. We're going to move over to Pico-8 now, and we're going to have a look at the same thing in Pico-8. All right, we're back in Pico-8, and we're going to press Escape to go to the code editor. Now that we're in the code editor, we can start creating our loop. Now, Scratch calls a loop a repeat, but in Pico-8, a loop is called a for statement, and we can create it by typing this kind of code. So we type for such and such a condition, do, and end. We need to finish that statement. So just like we have for our repeat, see how in our repeat statement, it actually ends up looking like it has that little arrow that sends it back up to the top at the very end of the repeat statement. It's the same thing here. We actually have to tell the loop to end and then actually go back to the start again. And that's why we have to have that end there. In here, we have to give it something to actually check. In our Scratch code, we actually check the countdown. And so we actually have to create that countdown here inside the loop. So we write countdown equals 10. So for the variable countdown that equals 10, we're going to tell it to count backwards to 1. And so we're going to put 1 there because we want it to only do it 10 times back to 1. and we're going to change that 10 by -1. So we have, for countdown equals 10 to 1, we're going to change it by -1 each time. And we can actually change this number and have this countdown still from 10 to 1, but we might do it by 2s or 3s. We can have a look at that later. Now inside our for statement, we need to actually put the say command. So we're actually needing to say this countdown. And so from the previous video, you know that we need to type print with the brackets and then countdown. So here we are still having our countdown. And when we come over here and we look at the countdown variable here, we are still saying countdown. It's just that we've written it in a different way. So let's run this and have a look at what actually happens. I'm going to press Control R or Command R. And we've got our 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 printing down the screen. Now let's just escape out of this, because what I want to happen is for this only to be on the screen. So remember, we have to do that CLS command to clear the screen. And then we also need to print party time at the end. So that's going to come underneath. So I'm going to print, and I need to make sure that I have my 2 little quotation marks there, so that anything that I write on the screen is inside those. For our variable that equals 10, because 10 is an actual number, it will count down. If we had made 10 a word, so it was inside those quotation marks, then our for statement wouldn't work, because it wouldn't know that it was looking at 10. It would just think it was looking at the actual word 10. So let's actually write party time with some exclamation marks. And then we can run this again with Control R or Command R. And there we go. We've got 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, party time. But we can take this a little step further in Pico-8 and do something fun that you could probably do in Scratch, but this is a little bit easier. In Pico-8, if we go across to our sprite editor, we can see that we have all these colors over here. And in Pico-8, each of these colors actually has a number associated with it. So we have, I think this is 0. Is that 0 color? I know that's 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, so black must be 0. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 is red, and we're going to use that in just a second. But we can actually have our color change on our text. So I can change all of this text up here. Let's do it up here first. I can say color, and we have to use the American spelling because this is Lua is an American coding language. And in coding languages, it is generally the default that all coding languages use American spelling just for consistency. So we can say color 8, and then we're going to go Command R, and now all of our text is red. So we can actually use this to our advantage for our countdown, because our countdown doesn't have 16 colors, it has, or it doesn't have 16 numbers, it has 10. And so what we can do is we can actually put color in here and have that equal to the countdown number. And if I take this out and we create, actually we'll put that down here. Let's go color and we'll make that 8. So now what will happen is this will go through and it will change the color number each time to correspond with the countdown number. So if we go Command R now, boom, we now have a very colorful countdown to party time. Hopefully that gave you a good insight into how you can create loops in Scratch and take that understanding into Pico-8. Again, Pico-8 and Scratch are two different coding platforms, and again, you simply just have to understand how each one does the same thing in a slightly different way. So it's just like learning another language. You just have to figure out what the words or what the similar words actually mean between the two languages. Okay, that's it for now. I'll see you in the next video.